up? This is Chuck. You're listening to the ITXP. Today is December 31st, 2025. It's the last day of the year. And here we are with the last episode of 2025. And some of you thought that this was going to be the last episode of the IT completely, but no, I'm still here. I'm still doing things. I'm still leveraging everything that I have within my wheelhouse to keep the lights on for this show because I truly believe in it. And I believe it has a place in the podcast ecosystem for technology professionals. Yes, it's called the ITXP. Yes, IT stands for information technology. But let's take the information out of there and just leverage technology. It's been 10 years. I'm not going to change the name now. I thought about it a couple of years ago, but I figured why not just keep it? And then XP, experience points. The whole goal was to give you experience points, to learn something new, to take the sweat off my back, if you may, to ensure that you don't run into the same issues that I have and don't run into the same mistakes. So that's why I call this the ITXP. So I want to talk about AI today, and I want to talk about the future of AI and how I've leveraged it and some of the things that I've encountered throughout the past few years since the release of ChatGPT at the end of 22 to Claude, to Gemini, to agentic AI, right? We went from generative AI to agentic AI. And there are a lot of things that I've encountered along the way that I want to share with you because I think a lot of you, I wouldn't say a lot of you, many of you probably are still hesitant, are still resistant. I've seen this in my own organization with the people I work with in technology that are still skeptical, still hesitant. They don't know where to start. And I continue to encourage them to leverage AI, even on my own team. Now, I have somebody in my team that he said, what? I could do this? I said, yeah, go for it. And he built his own little agents. He's running an MCP server internally. And if you have no idea what that is, keep on listening. So there are things that people are doing within an organization that are leveraging AI to minimize some of the work that they've been doing over the past 20 years, let's say. Now, some people are coming in and saying, well, I can do this better with AI and this and that. And I've seen this within my own organization where people say, oh, we can do this better. And when in actuality, are you really doing it better? Are you really taking advantage of what AI is supposed to do? Or are you just wrapping up something that's already been done into something that's called AI? Okay. And it's interesting because I do have insights into some of the things that my own company is doing, I should say. And I'm like, really? That's what you're doing with AI when you could be doing so much more? But I digress. I want to talk about how I leveraged AI over the past 2 years. Okay. Now, I put a pause on this show for a while because I've been learning. That's plain and simple. I've been learning how to use all the AI tools. I subscribe to ChatGPT. I subscribe to Claude. I subscribe to Gemini by way of Google One, right? So they upgraded me to Gemini. I also have Google Workspace, which also has Gemini, so I'm actually paying for it twice, but that's neither here nor there. I use RunwayML. I use ElevenLabs. Now, I'm going to warn you, this is not being produced by ElevenLabs right now. This is not my AI clone voice. This is actually me, Chuck, talking to you, right? So don't think that I'm cloning my voice. I typed in my whole script into ElevenLabs and it spit out this awesome AI voice of mine. No. I've used it for other things throughout the year because I'm trying to be a content creator. I'm trying to do different avenues of content creation to see how things actually work. Because look, I got into technology because I'm a curious person. I want to understand how things work. I want to understand how people embrace technology or how people use the content that I put out there for their own needs. Now, I have a couple different avenues that I'm working on. So the first one I think I've talked about before is corporate hardcore. My spin on corporate America and the absurdity around corporate America. If you follow at Corp Hardcore on TikTok, you'll see a number of videos that I've posted so far leveraging AI. Now you may ask, well, okay, Chuck, I see you've done things with Claude. I think I've seen you do things with Gemini and their video creation tool, but you have to understand how I got there, right? And I think that's going to be key with corporate hardcore. That was a culmination of me starting in 2022 to get to where I am today with corporate hardcore. Is it successful? No, it's not successful, but that's the point. You have to understand this. And I said it in my last episode with Don Freeman. Everybody right now is looking at that instant gratification and not wanting to put in the work to get to where they need to be. This show, in and of itself, has been around for 10 years. And it's not anywhere near where I need it to be because I didn't put in the work to do this. But I didn't want to put in the work for this. This is a hobby of mine, per se. Yes, initially I wanted to see how far I can go with it, but life gets in the way. I'm a father, right? Um, I have 2 kids. I'm a husband. So there are a lot of dependencies that people rely on from me to really focus on this podcast and make it as successful as I want it to be. And I don't even know if I can make it as successful as I want it to be. I don't know, because I'm here in a niche market. Not everybody likes technology from a corporate standpoint. They like technology from a content creation standpoint, but from a corporate standpoint, it's like, okay, those are the guys in the background that are just doing the work to keep the lights on for me. But now I have the cloud and I'm doing things on my own, right? I'm a DevOps guy or I'm a software engineer. I can build my own cloud infrastructure. Sure, you can. But when things go wrong, you have the insight and knowledge to be able to manage that. That's why the SREs came into place, right? The site reliability engineers. What are those guys? They're just infrastructure folks. In combination of infrastructure and DevOps, I think you get my point. It's my focus is such a niche market that there was never any expectation that I would blow up to be some top 10 podcast. That wasn't my point. My point, and I've always said this, is to do a brain dump of things that I've experienced throughout my 25 plus year career to maybe one person takes it and says, yeah, you know what, Chuck? I see that. Let me change my mindset and let me see if I can make my job or my career trajectory a little bit better. So corporate hardcore is my attempt to be a content creator, move away from the niche IT market into the niche corporate market, right? So there's like a bunch of corporate people doing things out there, right? There's corporate Natalie, which I think is the most popular one. So that's the market that I'm attracting, right? But I take a different spin on it. I take the absurdity and make a little cartoon out of that. And you may ask, why do a cartoon? A couple of reasons. I put my face out there on the face of the ITXP. It's on TikTok. It's on YouTube. Right? It's my face. This is my brand, the ITXP. So I didn't want to tag myself on another brand. So what I wound up doing was leveraging ChatGPT. Initially, I used Midjourney, but Midjourney wasn't a good fit for this because Midjourney is a little bit more artistic, let's say, for true artistic creators. So I used ChatGPT. I gave him a picture of myself, and I said, create me a cartoon style image to represent a mid-level manager in his 50s who has been stuck in mid management for a while, and take my resemblance and kind of mix it up. And it created Corporate Chuck. I still use the same name because it's easy for me to remember. I'm never going to forget it. So it created Corporate Chuck. And if you look at the first few episodes, I should say, quote unquote episodes, it was pretty consistent. And then GPT 4.5 came out. I had some problems maintaining the consistency. It wanted to use, every time I say create an image of Corporate Chuck doing something, it would use Chuck Zito. It would use an image of Chuck Zito. I wish I had some of those to show on my TikTok, but it would use Chuck Zito. I was like, no, this is not the Corporate Chuck that we're talking about. Remember? And look, I'll get into how I tried to maintain this consistency, but my point was there was a big learning curve along the way to maintain that consistency for Corporate Chuck, for corporate hardcore, I should say. And if you go through the first iterations of the videos, you'll see that there are some slight differences between Corporate Chuck from video 1 to video 2, video 3, and video 4. Over the course of the past month or so, I switched over to Gemini, and it's actually maintained some of that consistency, especially with video 3. And doing the actual animations of Corporate Chuck and actually bringing a little bit of life into Corporate Chuck, right? It's not so much of a cartoon per se. It's a mix of a cartoon and real life. So I kind of like that from from a content creation perspective, that evolution, right? I wanted to create a cartoon because look, I'm an 80s kid. I love cartoons growing up, and I've always wanted to create a cartoon. I'm reminded of the fact that when GI Joes were out, I think when the Cobra Commander action figure came out, or doll, if you may, right? The Cobra Commander action figure came out. You actually had to save up UPC codes from each of the GI Joe action figures that you purchased, and then send it out with, I think it was $2.50, so that way you can get Cobra Commander, because you couldn't just buy Cobra Commander. You had to get like mail it in to ensure that you were an actual fan of GI Joe, and they mailed it to you, and it was like a big deal. But with that, I remember it came with a cassette tape. And on the flip side of the cassette tape, you could actually record your own scenario with GI Joes. I remember as a kid, I loved it because I've always been interested in creating something. Now, granted, I didn't go into that route, but the most memorable memory for me was when I brought in the tape for kids to listen to at school. And you know how kids are. They're like, oh, what's on the other side? I was like, don't listen to that. And they, sure enough, that gave them more incentive to listen. And boom, they listened to me acting out this role-playing scenario. And I got made fun of because, you know, I'm a nerdy kid, I'm a dork, whatever. This is urban city, Newark, New Jersey, right? So that wasn't something that people were used to. So I've always wanted to create something. So corporate hardcore gave me that outlet to be creative. And now with AI, it's giving me that additional outlet to be creative. I can't draw. I've tried. I can't draw. I got made fun of by my art teacher in grammar school because I couldn't draw a deer properly. Right. Back in the 80s, we used to draw box figure ninja people. I don't know if you all remember that, but ninjas were a big thing in the 80s as well. We would draw ninjas left and right, and mine were like very boxy. So I leveraged the power of generative AI to take my ideas and create something that I've always wanted to do. Now, granted, corporate hardcore, again, is that niche market, but I'm leveraging AI to do it. I started out with ChatGPT, and I have a slew of chats within a project in ChatGPT called Corporate Hardcore. Now, if you subscribe to ChatGPT, go into your ChatGPT session. On the left-hand side of navigation, you'll see an option for projects. If you haven't used this before, maybe now is a good time to use it, because it's going to be your place to really focus in on some of these ideas that you may or may not have. Now, this would be ideal for a YouTube video, but again, I want to stay away from that because it's too much effort for me to do a YouTube video around this. I'm going to walk you through this because this is what I do at my job, right? I walk through things over the phone with a lot of people, and I don't do screen shares and things like that. So if you go on the left-hand side, you'll see projects. Now, you may have projects, you may not have projects, but I created a project called Corporate Hardcore. Now, I also do this in Claude, and I'll get to that as to why I moved to Claude, I think mid-year. But I go into Corporate Hardcore in my ChatGPT session, and I'll have a bunch of chats that I've already started with them. But the key thing here that you have to understand is that there's an option to add instructions into that project. Now, this is going to be specifically for that project. This is where the key point I'm about to make is that you need to hone in on. When you do a standard chat within ChatGPT, and I'll get to how my family uses ChatGPT versus how I use it. Maybe how you're using it versus how I use it. The instructions allow you to tailor specific actions within that project that don't that don't act on anything outside of that project. Let me read it right. You can create specific actions to be taken within that project. So for me, for Corporate Hardcore, I found a prompt on Reddit, I believe, or maybe it was Sabrina Romanoff. Maybe it was Sabrina. She's an AI advocate on TikTok that I follow. Maybe it was her. I can't remember, but there was a prompt that I took from either Reddit or Sabrina. I'm going to lean more on Sabrina because it's been a while since I've done this. And I threw it into ChatGPT and I said, I need to create instructions based on this. This is what I'm looking to do. I need you to help me ideate this corporate hardcore idea that I had. I don't want you to create it for me. I want to present you with ideas. I want you to challenge those ideas for me. So what it created was an intellectual sparring framework for me, right? And the purpose is, and this is all of my instructions, The purpose is to push ideas towards greater clarity, accuracy, and intellectual honesty, not agreement. Again, I'm not telling ChatGPT to agree with me. I'm telling it to challenge me, right? So the method, how it's actually going to do this. When the user presents an idea, always perform the following 5 actions. Analyze the assumptions. So identify what's being taken for granted. Ask, what if this assumption isn't true? Provide counterpoints. Offer what a smart, informed skeptic might say. Surface weaknesses or alternative interpretations. Test reasoning. Examine logic and causal links. Highlight inconsistencies, overgeneralizations, or circular reasoning. Offer alternative perspectives. Present reframes from different disciplines, contexts, or worldviews. Encouraging conceptual flexibility. Prioritize truth over agreement. Do not affirm by default. If logic fails or evidence is weak, say so directly and explain why. The tone needs to be constructive, rigorous, and intellectually honest, not argumentative for its own sake, but unflinching when the reason is flawed. Plain and simple, right? So again, I'm looking for a partner in this. I'm not looking for ChatGPT to say, yeah, this is a good idea. Okay. So how I've seen my family use it without using these projects or without using instructions, they say, my kids, answer this question for me. And ChatGPT will give them like a long-winded answer, things like that. And I tried to explain to them, I was like, that's not how this is actually supposed to work, right? Or they upload an image of their homework and they say, answer all these questions. And they've noticed over the past year that ChatGPT is getting things wrong. It's getting things wrong because they're just generalizing questions. And the whole purpose of leveraging these AI tools is to really leverage your critical thinking skills to use the power of AI to develop your thoughts and ideas. And that's going to be key. We all have critical thinking skills. Some are stronger than others. I get that. I understand that. But if you don't develop stronger critical thinking skills and leverage AI to help you with that, then you're never going to understand the true power behind AI and why everybody and their mother is saying AI is going to end all jobs in the future. I think AI is going to end a lot of jobs, just like the cotton gin ended a lot of jobs, just like the typewriter ended a lot of jobs, just like the computer ended a lot of jobs. But with those jobs in decline, there are many more careers, or jobs, I should say, that came out of that. And there are going to be many more jobs that are going to come out of this. Now, I think I've said this in a few episodes. I'm a big fan of Star Trek. Star Trek, in that alternate universe, people didn't work because they got paid. Right? I think there was like no income at all. People did things for the betterment of humanity. And if you think this is a simulation, if you really, really feel that way, which many people do, and to some extent I do too, we're trending towards that mindset. We're seeing some of that behavior from the newer generation saying, why can't we just do things for the betterment of humanity? And I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of people and why that may never work, but I'm already starting to see that. And it's like, this has happened before. It's going to happen again, right? So using instructions in your project for ChatGPT or Claude, and I haven't done it for Gemini because I don't know if I can create projects in Gemini. I think with Notebook LM you can. Don't quote me on that because I don't use Notebook LM as much as I want to. I know I have access to it, but I don't. But using instructions in ChatGPT and Claude may help you get what you want out of these tools. Remember, they're tools. And then for corporate hardcore, because I wasn't getting that consistency that I wanted, in one of my chats with ChatGPT, I said, hey, I'm not getting the consistent images that I want from you. How can I ensure that I get that consistent look and feel of my corporate hardcore world? And it said, oh, we can create a corporate hardcore visual Bible and you can add it to all your prompts. And I'm like, show me. So we did it, right? So I have a corporate hardcore created tone and direction. I have a tone. I have tone disciplines, right? There's an element guideline example. There's a creative summary, right? Chuck is sincere, but the world is absurd. He processes instead of reacts. a calm eye in the corporate storm. Humor should feel lived, not performed. Then there's a character Bible, right? Chuck, the mid-level prophet of corporate absurdity. He's 50 years old. He's a mid-level IT manager, enterprise systems and migrations. His core identity, right? A ghost in the machine who enforces rule he no longer believes in, right? So these are the things that ChatGPT helped me to develop and maintain so I have that consistency. So one of the things that I think a lot of you that are leveraging some of these tool sets are missing out on is really digging in and understanding and learning around it. A lot of you just say, oh, just create me this image or just do this and that. I think as we turn into 2026, really turning the key up a little bit, right? A lot of you have mobile phones. A lot of you can be sitting on the toilet learning this stuff and asking the machine how to actually teach you how to do things, right? Obviously, I also look at other YouTubers, look at other TikTok people, and leverage and learn from that. But most of this has really been asking the tool questions, right? Those critical thinking skills, and then not just believing it at face value. No, not just believing it at face value. Really, just right honing in on those questions and answers and saying, well, I don't understand this and this and that. And I actually argue with it, right? I say, no, that's not what I asked for. And they'll ask further clarifying questions and it'll continue on from there. Right. So I think a lot of us are missing out on the true power of AI. And it's, I've gone a bit long on this first part, but I want to point out something else is I'm not only doing this for corporate hardcore. Right? I'm doing this for the ITXP. It helps me with show prep. It helps me with some ideas, like when I need ideas to come up with, to talk about. And it also, with OpenAI and Sora 2, have allowed me to be even more creative with my likeness to create a series on TikTok, the.it.xp, around me being a basketball coach. So when I got access to Sora 2, I just started playing around. And my daughter is now playing basketball in high school. She's actually at a tournament today. And I said, hey, make me as a basketball coach. And I posted some videos on TikTok, and they're fun, right? I got some views. I think one of them got 384 views. Yay. But that's not my point. My point is one of my friends commented, he's like, Coach Chuck. I was like, hey, that's an idea. So I went to Claude, because Claude now for me is a lot better at ideation than ChatGPT. So if you're as old as I am, you remember the Mac versus PC commercials? I find Claude more like Mac and ChatGPT more like PC. If you understand what I mean by that reference, then I think you get it, right? Mac is more for the designer, for the creator. Claude, I feel like, is more for the designer, for the creator. ChatGPT is more scientific, more nerdy. Let's call it that way, right? Because that's how I feel the responses coming from OpenAI are received. I feel like it's a lot more nerdy than Claude. Claude talks to me like it's my consultant. ChatGPT talks to me like it's my employee. I hope that makes sense. And it may not resonate with you because you may get different results because, again, everybody's inputs are completely different, right? So it's one of those things where I continue to expand what I want to do with these tools to further fuel my creativity, right? It's really meant to further fuel my creativity because I think in the long run, us working in corporate America isn't really the life dream, right? Nobody comes out of school and says, I want to work in corporate America. No, you target yourself into that because you realize at some point you need to make money to survive in this crazy world. I'm going to say effed up world, but to survive in this crazy world. And nobody says, I'm going to be, a corporate executive. No, nobody says that. I mean, there may be people out there that want to jump into management consulting, but it's with AI, a lot of that's going away. Trust me, a lot of that's going away. And then the other thing is, I'm actually supporting a Chinese dance performer who we just met up during one of her live shows, and we got to talking, and I said, hey, I can help you out with some videos, and I used Claude to come up with descriptions. I clipped some videos during the live show, and boom, literally in probably 20 minutes, I have a post out, and it's scheduled, ready to go. I don't get paid for it, right? But it's something that I enjoy because again, it gives me that creative outlet, right? So I don't have to spend much time on it, right? If I really thought about it, I'd probably be spending at least 12 hours a day doing that video post. I don't have to. I use CapCut, I use Claude, I snip everything in on my phone, right? Gemini, Google Photos, it gives me clips from the phone, from the recording of the video, right? Because I recorded the live video. And then when I go into Google Photos, it says key moments of the video. It's like, oh shoot, I'll just clip this, boom, 15 seconds. That's all I need. I don't need that much. Right? So Google Photos or Gemini is already clipping some key moments of the video for me. I use Claude to create descriptions. And I use CapCut to do the actual video, right? The cool transitions and effects for the video. And then I schedule it with TikTok Studio and boom, done. So the tools are there for you to leverage. The tools are there, right? So for me, that's when I realized AI stopped being this abstract tech, right? And became a triage. It helped me automate things, right? It helped me automate things. And it allowed me to deliver things more consistently, from corporate hardcore to this TikTok dancer to Sora 2 with Coach Chuck. Right? I'm not spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of doing these things. I'm doing it on my phone, first of all. And secondly, it's maybe 30 minutes. The longest thing that takes me is corporate hardcore because a lot of that stuff takes time, right? In Sora, you got to take time, create it. Not Sora, in Veo, right? And then I got to dump it into Adobe Premiere. I slice it up there, right? I actually moved to CapCut because I'm trying to get rid of my Adobe subscription. So I moved some of that stuff to CapCut, but CapCut's not really designed for like Adobe style stuff, but it gets the job done. So I can't use the AI there. But corporate hardcore probably takes me the longest. Maybe because I'm more invested in trying to build out that brand, that corporate hardcore brand. But I'm still using the tools to help me deliver something a lot more faster. So maybe with corporate hardcore, I take about an hour a day to do the video, the 50, 60-second video. Whereas if I was doing this on my own, it would take me a hell of a lot longer because I'm not an animator. I can't draw, right? So I'm leveraging the tools to help me do these things. So the other thing is, you're like, well, Chuck, how does that relate to IT or technology in corporate America? Right? You're like, Chuck, I'm not a content creator. I listen to you because you talk to me about corporate IT, corporate technology. And I was like, why are you telling me these stories about what you're doing with your content creation? I don't give a shit. You probably turned off by now. You're about to turn off. But wait, don't turn it off yet. Right? If you're a sysadmin, you're doing the exact same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Right? You're triaging tickets. You're copying, pasting runbook steps. You're writing scripts. You're doing PowerShell stuff. If you're not using AI today at your job, what are you doing? What are you doing? I have a friend who's a sysadmin, and I've been talking to him about this since 2022. And I'm like, dude, and he works the overnight shift. I'm like, bro, dude, automate everything that you do. So that way you work like 5 to 5, 5 at night to 5 in the morning, whatever your shift is, right? You could be learning other things while your automations are taking care of everything else. And now with agentic AI, you can create agents to do that stuff for you. And you're like, well, some of the stuff is very complicated. It's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not complicated. You make it complicated because you're trying to protect yourself and you're saying, oh, this is my job. I'm the only one that knows how to do it. But yeah, okay. Okay, but if I were his manager, I'd ask him, hey, how do you automate this stuff? And I've actually asked that of my team, my current team. And if they tell me that they're not using AI, I kind of look at them like, why? And some of you, I hear you because I've heard it already from one of my guys in the UK. I've heard it already. You're like, no, AI is not going to be able to do this. I'm like, you guys are R-worded, okay? Now, if you live in the 80s, you know what that R word is. Regarded, right? But with a T. You have to stop saying that it's not going to do your job because you're afraid that you're going to be out of a job because you automated the shit out of everything. Stop. Stop doing that. You're afraid that you're not going to be able to learn something that can propel your career forward because you're comfortable in what you're doing today. That's what you're afraid of. You're not afraid about losing your job because you automated the shit out of it. You're afraid that you can't do something else because you're so comfortable in what you're doing today that you don't want to do something else. And I've had this conversation for the past 3 years with one of my guys in the UK. And honestly, it got to a point where I told you before, right? I had new responsibilities brought back to me in directory services. We have a new team, new leads within that team. I asked this guy, I said, hey, the guy from the UK, I said, yo, where's the directory services infrastructure diagram? Where's the architecture diagram? Where's all that stuff? He's like, yeah, the ones that you created. Yeah, but that was like 4 years ago, bro. Like things have changed. Like, where is it? It's like, yeah, no, I need to create it. I need to create it. So I talked to the domain admin lead who he kind of indirectly reports to me. I said, hey, man, I was like, look, I know we don't have an updated architecture diagram. That's something that I'm having my guy work on. I was like, but it'd be great if you can come up with something to kind of put together so you can help him out. He's kind of in a bind, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, hey, Chuck, no problem, man. This guy's from Costa Rica, right? So, Costa Rica, they're like, pura vida, right? Like, pure life. He's like, no. He's like, I got this. He's like, hey, can I get some access to cloud services and stuff like that? I mean, yeah, whatever you need. I run the public cloud team, so whatever you need, dude, just ask me. So he got access to the sandbox environment. And what did he do? Using AI, because we're allowed to use it in the company, he created a Python program that essentially built our Active Directory infrastructure diagram, architecture diagram. In literally 2 weeks, he did it. 2 weeks. Right? Amongst all his other responsibilities of running directory services, he did it. And he's like, Chuck, look, here's my initial design, right? My MVP. And I'm still tweaking it. I still need access to certain things. Can I get access to Claude? And I'm like, that's still, just some political stuff with Claude and things like that. I was like, just continue using OpenAI. You may have access to Gemini very shortly. He's like, oh, cool. Anything other than OpenAI because I want to test a couple different things. I'm like, all right, cool. But he developed it. He created it. And I looked at him. I was like, didn't you just redo the Active Directory architecture diagrammer that Microsoft developed a couple years ago and kind of left defunct? He's like, yeah, that's essentially what I did. I just took that concept and did it in Python. I was like, perfect. Now, the difference between this guy and my guy in the UK, right, is he embraced the challenge first and foremost. And he said, I'm going to leverage something the company is telling us that we can use to make this job easier. Now, I could have done the same thing, but that's not my focus, right? I'm mid-level management. I got to focus on strategy and things like that. I got to help cultivate and coach a team, right? I'm not going to be hands-on doing this stuff. That's not my role anymore. But this guy did it. The other guy, he's still trying to figure it out. I didn't tell him that this guy did it. I didn't tell him. Because think about it. If you're working for me and I say, hey, how come you're not automating this stuff? And you give me some, you're hemming and hawing. You're like, okay, I'll learn it. And it's been 2 months and you haven't done anything. And then I come around saying, oh, by the way, this guy, Brandon, whatever, not his real name. He already did this. So we're going to start using this. And you're just going to validate it. How's it going to make you feel? I know how it's going to make you feel. You're going to be like, oh, shit. And that oh, shit is going to turn into the oh, fuck because you're going to get laid off. You're going to get laid off. Businesses today cannot wait for people to get off their ass and do something. They want people to come in and go hard and heavy. Now, your industry may be different, but imagine you taking that initiative and saying, hey, I'm going to improve this. Hey, team, let's work on this together. right? Because you don't want to be that asshole and be like, hey, I did this. Look at me. I did this. Maybe that's not your style. That's not my style. Right? I'm a servant leader. I want to make sure I elevate the team before I elevate myself. That's one of the things I learned in my MBA program. That's just my personality. I honestly, I don't give a shit about how well I do as a leader. I gave a shit about when I was an individual contributor. But even as an individual contributor, I was supporting those around me, my colleagues that would come join me and listen and learn. Right? Like, hey, let's do this, bro. Let's do this. Let's use PowerShell. Let's PowerShell. We should be automating this shit. Let's use this product called Host Monitor that was introduced by another team. And I said, wow, we could do this? Let's use it. Why aren't we doing these things? And now we're here with AI. And I said, hey, team, you should be leveraging AI to do all this stuff for you. You should be leveraging AI to take our automation platform for Azure and dump it into AI to create it for AWS and validate it. Dump it into AI to do it for GCP and validate it. Dump it into AI to do it for Nutanix and validate it. All that hard work that you took 2 months to do. Have AI validate that shit for the other platforms and be done with it and get it done and continue iterating it to make it better. So that way the business doesn't look at us like IT is the blocker. We are enablers for the business. We have to enable the business. We can't stop them from making money. That's the whole purpose of a corporation, is to make money. It's not there to support your gaming addiction. Your gaming addiction is there because you work for a company that makes money because of the stuff that you enable them to do. Or whatever addiction you have. People forget that you work at a company because the company values your experience to enable them to do something. People always forget that. You're not there just because they have to hire you. They don't have to hire you, and they're not hiring you. They're not. People forget that nobody has to work. You don't want to work, then don't work. Right? But if you're at a company and the company's saying, hey, we're falling behind in this initiative, we're falling behind here, we need people to step up, and you're not stepping up, man. Why are you there? I interviewed for a company that, people have been there 30 some odd years, and I've been there. I wanted to be that 30-year guy. I did. I'm cursing myself that I'm at almost a 10-year guy. Right? But I'm still here because the company is moving forward and saying, you can use these things to help us make more money. Now, I don't directly make money for the company. I indirectly make money for the company, but I enable them to do that. And everybody forgets that. You're there to provide value for the company. If you stop providing value for the company, you're going to find yourself out of a job. Now, that value may be in actually doing things, or that value may be your leadership style, your leadership ability to motivate people to do things, to see what other people aren't seeing. If you're early in your career, you have to execute. I have a junior engineer and she's executing. And that's what I tell her. I was like, I don't care what you're doing. I need you to execute. Jump in this meeting. Tell me what we can do here. Jump in this meeting. I pull her from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting because I remember when I was her age, that's all I was hungry. I wanted to learn everything about the company so I could understand it better, so I can do things for the company. Now, some of you be like, well, that's not a really good structure for her to learn and things like that. She's not saying no. I ask her all the time. Now, she does say certain things like, well, I don't feel like we're collaborating more and things like that. I was like, perfect. Let's fix that. Now, some of you may also be saying, well, Chuck, you're a different type of leader. I don't think so. I think what we have today is a leadership problem. Absolutely. We have a leadership problem because people go into leadership, and this is why I'm not C-level. People go into leadership and they follow these McKinsey rules of how you're supposed to be a C-suite person. And I think that's even changing. I honestly think that's even changing. I've seen some great CEOs in my time. I've worked for some great CEOs in my time. Actually, two CEOs that I felt like were really, really great. Will Pesci from the publishing company, and then look, I'm kind of giving my information out, and my current employee. And you'll probably find out where I work, but I don't care at this point. And the current CEO of my current job. I think the last one was good too, but I think the CFO ran it better than the CEO. But anyway, you have to remember that the whole purpose of you working is to provide value for a company. And if you're allowed to use AI, you're like, Chuck, why are you going off on this tangent? I'm not. I'm trying to prove a point that you have these tools to make your job better. Leverage them. Leverage them, leverage them, leverage them. If your company doesn't allow you to use AI because they're scared and things like that, that's fine. Be smart about it. Leverage AI as a tool in your own personal account, but don't be stupid and upload company data into it. Now, you could do this without uploading company data. You can do this without uploading company data. So don't be stupid about it. All right. And if you can't leverage the tools inside your company and you want to leverage it from your own personal account, right, on your mobile phone or things like that, make sure that you're doing it in a way that shows that you've actually grown. Right? Excuse me. That you've actually grown. Because probably within the next year or two, your company is going to be approached by a vendor and says, hey, we're leveraging AI ops to do self-remediation of issues, and we're saving company, X 75% of downtime because our AI ops tool is remediating them before it even happens. So you can actually reduce your workforce by 30% if you implement this AI ops tool. Why don't you take a look at it? Once you kick the tires on this, once you do an evaluation of POC or whatever. We've had a lot of successes. We have Fortune 500 companies that are leveraging this today. You know how I know this? Because we're implementing it now. We are implementing this AI ops tool now. Is it good? No. But it's going to get good. Because what does it need? What does AI need? Audience, what does AI need today? AI needs data, Chuck. Yes. So how did they get that data? They work with large companies that have a lot of data to consume. And we're a company that has large data to consume. So you don't think it's coming. It's already here. It's already here. Right? BMC, ServiceNow, SolarWinds, Logic something. I forgot the name of it. There's so many out there. Just like they have AI ops tools now. Now, the other thing that I've heard from my infrastructure guys, there's no way AI is going to touch my server and reboot it. Oh, wait. I was like, if you haven't been doing automated remediation already, then you're doing your job wrong. Because we used to reboot servers based on specific events, right? And this is what gets me about people that have that mindset. You already do it. You have event-driven triggers that may restart a service on a box because a threshold was hit. How do you think AI learned about it? You have the data. You're doing this today. You're doing this today. Just because somebody slapped an AI on top of it doesn't mean that it's not something you've already been doing. So don't say AI is not going to restart a server. It's going to, because you already do it. And if you're not doing that, what the hell is wrong with you? I know I've gone a long time with this. I know I've talked a lot. But I really want to point out that these tools, Claude, OpenAI, Gemini, Perplexity, Deep Search, whatever tool is out there that you want to use, it can make your life much easier, but it will also make your life a little bit more complex. Because now that things are getting easier and easier for you, you're going to be faced with the fact like, oh shit, what am I going to do next? And that what am I going to do next is what I really think people are focused in on and they're scared of. at what am I going to do next? Am I going to be out of a job because I automated the shit out of everything? No. You probably will be promoted because you automated the shit out of everything. And if that scares you, then maybe you take your business elsewhere that needs somebody to just do what you did for company A. And then you become the person that goes into companies and go, hey, this is how I did it. Let me redo it. That's what I did for my Lotus Domino to Exchange migrations. That's what I made. I made a good career out of that. And then I had to pivot. So there are a lot of tools out there for you to use, especially in the corporate world, right? Right. And the key thing you have to remember about AI, right? AI is your mirror. It's not a brain. It's a mirror of you, right? AI reflects your clarity. If you give it a vague question, it's going to give you a vague ass answer. Now, if you specify that question a little bit more clearer, you're going to get useful output. So when I first started with Claude, and it said, hey, help me with a podcast idea, I'd get a generic response. Like, all right, here's some 10 podcast ideas. Right? Give me some viral descriptions for blah, blah, blah. Okay, here are some 10 viral descriptions. Right? So now I say, hey, Claude, generate 10 contrarian angles on IT layoffs in 2025, prioritized by search volume and debate potential. Right? I go from help me with a podcast idea to generate 10 contrarian angles on IT layoffs in 2025, prioritized by search volume and debate potential. You can do the same thing for runbooks, right? If you ask AI, hey, write a disaster recovery plan, you'll get a disaster recovery plan, right? All textbook stuff. Now, if you go, hey, write a disaster recovery plan for a 3-tier web app on AWS with an RTO of 4 hours, prioritizing database replication, you'll get something a lot more useful. A lot more useful. And these are actual things that I've asked Claude. Right? So remember, AI is not going to make you smarter. You're smart enough already. I always say I'm the dumbest person in the room. Sometimes I am. We're going to company. There's really some smart people there. But AI is going to help you clarify those questions. And this is what a lot of people miss out on, right? The people that you see get promoted are the ones that ask a lot of clarifying questions. And the reason they ask a lot of clarifying questions is because they want to be visible. So remember that. Remember that. So the other thing about AI is that 70-30 rule, right? Every AI output gets me 70% of the way. The last 30%, what am I doing? I'm fact checking. I'm looking at edge cases. I'm making it sound like me. I've gotten to the point where I can actually get Claude to write like me because I've given it writing samples of my emails and my chats. So it actually sounds like me. When I ask Claude to write something for me, it actually uses my tone. More recently, right before the Christmas holiday, I was in the office and I was writing my final. I do newsletters every Friday. So to my team, and I did my final newsletter for the year, as most people are out this week, and I fed it. I wrote it. I wrote it first. I wrote it out, and then I fed it into Claude. I said, "Hey, Claude, this is my final year newsletter. I want to ensure that I am capturing these moments accurately. I want to ensure that I highlight key accomplishments by these team members." And I laid out I specified team members because they were in my email. I was like, and I also want to make sure that the way I recognize my team is also seen by my leadership team, right? Because I'm going to copy them on it. And it took it and analyzed it and said, perfect. I would add a couple more things, maybe 2 or 3 more things. So that way your leadership would understand the impact that those accomplishments had on the business. And those are things that I would forget because I'm not a great self-promoter for my team, right? And I think if you've been working with technology a lot, it's hard to be a self-promoter. So I thanked Claude after that because that's one of the things I'm targeting for 2026 is to ensure my team gets a lot more visibility on all the great things that they do over the past couple of years. Going into 2026, I want them to be more visible across the organization. People know what we do, but people don't know what we do, which is a problem. So Claude actually pointed out, say, hey, if you reframe this sentence and this sentence and this sentence in this way, then it will resonate a lot more clearer to your leadership. I was like, perfect. So I still wrote the email, but I had Claude proofread it for me. Right? So you could do that, right? And then, so the 70-30 rule, right? So I did 70% of the job, and it fixed that last 30%. Again, you can do the same thing with Terraform, right? AI will generate Terraform configs to deploy, but did it account for your tagging standards, your compliance requirements, your team skill level? Right? That 30% is you. You're going to feed stuff into AI. It's going to output stuff. You're going to do the last 30% because you know your work better than AI. And that's where the person, the human touch still comes in. That's not going to go away anytime soon. As you do more and more with AI and I don't even know what I'm trying to say. As you do more and more with AI, right, you learn more, right? You get better at it. You ask clarifying questions. You're going to see that your thoughts are going to get more refined. You're going to have more ideas. You're going to say, wow, I can do this. Let me dig deeper into this. You're only doing now 30% of the job. So you have more time to do other things for the job, to make yourself better, to make the company better, to make your team, your department, whatever, better. Right? Experiment in public. Like I said, if you can't do it in your own company, do it in your own time, in your own accounts. Shit, I just had a business unit tell me 2 weeks ago that they were experimenting in Gemini public with deep research, with prompts that they were creating with their knowledge. And now they want to bring it inside. I'm like, what? You what? You took your proprietary knowledge of how to formulate a prompt to leverage Gemini deep research to output, obviously, public data in a format that you needed it. But it was your intellectual property is your prompt. And you threw it into Gemini? What? Why? Well, because we wanted to see if it was going to actually do something. Yeah, but you don't throw your intellectual property into a public LLM, a public model. You don't. So my mind was blown. My mind was blown. Right? So just be cautious of the things that you do there. Now, maybe I'm over-exaggerating things because I'm using hyperbole to kind of hit home with the message. But you want to make sure that when you're experimenting, you don't put company data in there. Okay? You don't want to put company data in there. So I feel like I've kind of beat a dead horse right now, right? Most of you are like, well, why now, Chuck? Why can't I just wait another year and see how all this shakes out? Well, because 2025, it's not an early adopter moment anymore. That was 22. 22 and 23 were early adopters. 25, you're already late to the game, buddy. You're already late to the game. In 23, AI made you cutting edge. In 24, it made you productive. In 25, not using AI makes you slow. You're in technology because it moves fast. AI is now making it move faster than before. The baseline for a competent IT professional now includes one that can direct AI tools to solve problems. So if you're still not using AI, you are already late. You are now as old as me. If you're in your 30s and not using AI because you're like, I could do it better than AI, you are now a 50-year-old in the IT world and you're going to be redundant. Okay? Hear me out. You're going to be redundant. So you don't need to master AI. You don't need to be a prompt engineer. You need to stop treating it like it's optional. Start with one task that you hate. One repetitive thing that makes you groan every time it lands in your ticket queue. Ask ChatGPT or Claude. Draft it for you. See what happens. Either save time or you learn why it failed. Either way, you're ahead of the person that didn't try. I tell my daughter this all the time. You miss every shot you don't take in basketball. We learned that from sports. You miss every shot you don't take. And why don't we apply it to our career? You're missing the shot because you're not playing the game. You're not leveraging the tools that are out there for you. So in 2025, not using AI doesn't make you cautious. It makes you slow. So look, before I wrap up, because I've been going long, here are 3 predictions that I have. AI agents go mainstream. It's already there, buddy. It's already there. I was at Ignite. Agent everywhere. So 26 is going to be that more agentic. IT skills gap flips. Right now, we can't find enough cloud engineers. By the end of 26, we'll be desperate for AI orchestration. People who can direct AI to solve ops problems. The bottleneck is not going to be a technical bottleneck. It's going to be judgment and context. And that's the key. Judgment. We as humans that have been working in this space for a long time will have better judgment than the person coming out of college. So we are going to become more valuable because we understand the outputs and are not just going to simply implement them and break something else. I let my junior engineer play in sandbox. I don't let her play in production. Why? Because she doesn't know what she doesn't know. I've been doing it 25 plus years. Most of my team, maybe 10, 15 years. There's another one that's been doing it 25 years, and he's the architect. Our judgment is going to be able to direct and guide those folks to ensure that, hey, be careful what you do there. Have you thought about this? Have you considered this? So if you're older, like me, in IT, and you're afraid of using AI, start using it, and start looking at the outputs. Remember, clarity is going to be key. The last thing is regulatory scrutiny. It's going to get harder and harder and harder. Cyber teams are already faced with trying to secure the shit out of this. It's hard. Right? So it's going to be something where, again, that judgment, right? If you say, well, AI did this, and you work in a regulated industry, they're not going to take that as an answer. You are still the human, right? You're still the human. So if you're an AI skeptic, switch your mindset, become AI first. AI didn't replace me. It freed me to do the work only I can do because I think a lot differently than you. So here's my challenge for you. Today's December 31st. Have fun tonight. Enjoy the rest tomorrow. On January 2nd, start. Pick one task. Let AI take the first pass. You'll either save time or you'll learn something new. Either way, you're building the skill that matters most in the next decade. Learn about agentic AI. I didn't even get a chance to talk to MCP servers because I was just so passionate about what I was talking about. I was really passionate about what I was talking about. But start today. Start January 2nd. Just start. Don't be in that mindset of, oh, I'll wait to see how it. No. If you're old like me, you're already out the door. They're already looking at you and saying, this guy is just too expensive. So make them value you because, oh, look at what he's been doing or they've been doing with AI. So start today. It doesn't take that long to learn. You can actually have AI teach you as you go along. Again, clarifying questions, saying, hey, explain why this didn't work. X, Y, and Z. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be something. So thanks for listening. This is the ITXP. Thanks for being on this journey with me. If this episode helped, do me a favor. Share it with one person who's still on the fence about AI. Let's make 2026 the year IT stops reacting and starts building. Happy New Year, and I'll see you next year.